Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Serge.
And my name is James.
And I can slide tackle you as of tomorrow, James. Back to business as usual. Get up in your face, tackle from behind, take your legs out.
I'm not being funny.
Elbow to the head.
Did you see us playing Pictionary Saturday? I think it all went out. It all went out the window there, mate.
Oh dear. So it's quiz day today, being that it's Wednesday. We'll talk about the Premier League's resuming training, contact training. They voted to pass that, so which basically means we're given the indication that we are now looking at a few weeks away from football itself potentially restarting. Let's just acknowledge that has happened. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just now. It's a case of if it's 19th or 26th of June.
Yep.
That's it. It's happening. We are restarting.
With the caveat that obviously if there's a little spike, then
then it's off again.
An issue. We'll see.
Yeah, as long as it goes on the way it's going at the moment. Yeah, we're restarting in 23 days or 30 days basically. I think that's where we're at.
And I'm not completely convinced yet, James, just based on how many people are out and about. And I had to go to work yesterday. Just getting to work and getting home from work took me the same amount of time as it normally would had we not been in a lockdown situation. I think the world has just given up on this lockdown. Well, especially London has. I don't know about the rest of the country. So the chances of a spike are not slim. They are high.
Let's see what happens when people are properly going back to work and whatnots, and let's see.
So today's quiz, James, talk to me. Talk to everybody.
Today's quiz is a Premier League related quiz. It is 20 questions based on Gameweek 38 in Premier League history. Now, it's not a trick question when I say Gameweek 38. All these questions will relate to from 1996 to 2019.
Right, okay. So the first 4 years you've written off.
I've discounted the years where there were 22 teams in the league because obviously then the final day of the season would have been Gameweek 42. So
but those are the only seasons I did any revision on.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I believe you.
So...
Yeah. So we're obviously discounting the first 3 seasons when obviously Game Week 42 would have been the final day of the season. So it's going to be questions based from 1996 onwards in relation to the last day of the season, basically.
Yep.
There are 20 questions and there are a total of 30 possible answers. Just like to give a shout out to Jay Loveshanks, who came up with the suggestion for the theme. I sent a tweet out yesterday after we'd recorded asking for some suggestions on quiz topics, and I had a really, really good batch of feedback and a lot of ideas that I will use in future game weeks. But this particular idea come from @JLoveshanks.
Pretty useful that we've got a bank of quizzes to back up on now, James, considering that for all the lovely people that are signed up on Patreon, we've got to give them a quiz every single week. And for all the lovely people that enjoy the quiz so much who are going to join Patreon because they want a quiz every single week. So there we go. We can start locking and loading them up.
All right. Are you ready, sir, to do quiz?
No, but let's do it.
No, you're not.
Well, I've got a piece of paper with 1 to 20 and I've put it out of 30. And I reckon if I get more than 5, I'm going to be very proud of myself. Let's rock and roll.
If this is hard, it's Suj's fault.
Why?
Because Suj messaged me. I thought, this is going to be a topic that's going to be really tough for Suj. And then Suj messaged me last night. He went, I'm doing revision, So I thought, all right, sod it. I scrapped a few questions. However, I have, in my opinion, picked games and events that people will, on the whole, know. I haven't picked random, like Southampton won at Wimbledon on last day of the season in mid-table clash and shit like that. It's not going to be...
It's promotions, relegation. Well, not promotions, but titles, relegations,
speaking,
that kind of stuff.
There shouldn't
European games.
There shouldn't be anything too obscure until I do question 1.
Go on then.
Question 1.
In 2011-12, who scored... No. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll tell you straight now that Sergio Aguero is none of these answers.
Okay.
If that's the sort of quiz you came for, go somewhere else. Question 1 has 2 possible correct answers. Which 2 sides played their final home game at their old stadium against Arsenal? Which 2 sides played their final home game at their old stadium against Arsenal? And obviously, when I say their final home game at their old stadium, I mean the last ever competitive game played at that stadium before they moved into a new stadium. And those games took place in game week 38.
Okay.
Question 2 from the Sergio Aguero game. Who was sent off in Queen's Park Rangers' 3-2 defeat at Manchester City in 2012?
I've got one. Can I just go and do a little dance in the corner?
If you like, mate. I mean, you could have the incorrect answer. So that was who was sent off in QPR's 3-2 defeat at Man City in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Question 3. Who did Liverpool beat on the final day of the 2000-2001 season to secure Champions League qualification? Who did Liverpool beat on the final day in 2001 to secure Champions League qualification?
2001, yeah?
That's correct.
So 2000-2001 season. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Question 4. In 2003, Chelsea beat Liverpool 2-1 in a shootout for a Champions League place. Who scored the Chelsea goals? 1 point for each. In 2003, Chelsea beat Liverpool 2-1 in a shootout for a Champions League place. Who scored the Chelsea goals? 1 point for each.
No one.
That's helpful. One
more than none.
One goal's more famous than the other.
Yeah, we should not talk because we're just giving clues to our listeners, James.
What, by saying one goal's more famous than the other?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know about these lot.
No, I don't think so. Question 5. In what year was the highest scoring final day game? In what year was the highest scoring final day game? That's obviously combined scorers in both teams' goals scored together. Most goals in a match, however you want to describe that.
I know a game with and a year of a crap ton of goals. I don't know if there was another game that had more.
Well, I do, but I can't tell you.
No, but you don't know the one I'm talking about. We could be talking about the same one.
Yeah, probably better we're not.
I don't know. Because I read this.
See, you did do some research, didn't you?
Yeah. But, yeah, okay. It was well, okay. I was going to give a clue, but it doesn't help. Come on, let's keep it going.
Question 6. In 1998, Everton drew 1-1 with Coventry to climb from 18th to 17th, who dropped into the relegation zone at their expense and went down.
1998.
In 1998, Everton drew 1-1 with Coventry to climb from 18th to 17th, who dropped into the relegation zone in place of Everton and went down.
Okay.
Question 7 has 2 answers. 1 point for each. With Manchester City needing to beat opponents Middlesbrough at the Etihad to leapfrog them and claim the final UEFA Cup spot, who did Stuart Pearce bring on for Claudio Reyna with only 2 minutes remaining in 2005? And for an additional point, who had an injury time penalty saved? with Manchester City needing to beat opponents Middlesbrough at the Etihad to leapfrog them and claim the final UEFA Cup spot, who did Stuart Pearce bring on for Claudio Reyna with only 2 minutes remaining in 2005? And for an additional point, who had an injury time penalty saved?
Okay.
In the same game, obviously.
Yeah.
Question 8. Who was in charge of Newcastle when they stayed up on the final day in 2015? Who was in charge of Newcastle when they stayed up on the final day in 2015? Question 9.
Don't know that one, James.
You're not happy now?
Nah. No is the answer to that.
Okay. Question 9. Which former Arsenal player scored the opening goal against the Gunners in the final game of the Invincibles season? Which former Arsenal player scored the opening goal against the Gunners in the final game of Arsenal's Invincibles season?
Okay, got an answer for that one.
Question 10 has 3 possible correct answers. Didier Drogba and Nicolas Anelka scored 5 of Chelsea's goals in their 8-0 win against Wigan in 2010 on the way to the title. Who scored their 3 other goals?
Repeat, sorry.
Didier Drogba and Nicolas Anelka scored 5 of Chelsea's goals in their 8-0 win against Wigan in 2010 on the way to the title on the final day. Who scored Chelsea's 3 other goals?
No idea. Let's go with stab with this guy.
Stab with this guy and what, stab with 2 other guys? Or?
Oh, did you say? Oh, so I thought you said one person scored 3 goals.
No. 3 answers. Yeah,
3 goals on each. Oh,
so...
then that's even better. I could have a stab at 3 guys. Yeah, all of them wrong.
Yes, to clarify, 3 answers in that question. All those 3 players all scored 1 goal each. Question 11.
Yes.
Gabriel Jesus scored an injury time goal at St Mary's 2 years ago on the final day to get Manchester City to 100 points. Who got the assist?
Can I phone Tom Cantle?
You can phone Tom Cantle. He will know the answer.
No, bloody hope so. That's why his name is Pod. Who got the assist?
Gabriel Jesus scored an injury time goal at St Mary's 2 years ago on the final day to get Man City to 100 points. Who got the assist?
Okay, I've got an answer.
Question 12. Whose final day goal for Bradford against Liverpool in 2000 saved them from relegation? Question 12. Whose final day goal for Bradford against Liverpool in 2000 saved them from relegation?
Got a name?
Question 13. In 2008, which 2 sides were relegated on the final day despite winning 4-1 and 4-0 respectively after Fulham won at Portsmouth?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously 2 correct answers for that question. In 2008, which 2 sides were relegated despite winning 4-1 and 4-0 respectively on the final day after Fulham won at Portsmouth?
I've read about this as well.
Got 2 answers, sir.
I think I read about it because Fulham were 5 points adrift with 3 to go, right?
Fulham won the final 3 in a row.
Yeah, and the other 2
quite famously were dead and buried in that third game. They were 2-0 down at Man
One of
City.
the
3-2.
teams, and this is the annoying thing, one of the ones that won 4-1 beat Derby, who had got like bugger all points and got relegated. So it was one of those games was a relegation.
I'm guessing people didn't think it was Derby, as they only got 11 points that season. There you go. There's a clue for you.
No, it wasn't them. It was, and I read it like we're talking an hour. The general reason I know Fulham got 6 points in their last three to get out of it.
9 points.
Sorry, 9 points. Yeah, there were 5 points adrift. Sorry, so 9 points. All right, okay. It's going to come to me.
Okay, question 14.
Yep.
On the final day in 2007, Carlos Tevez scored at Old Trafford to keep West Ham up.
Correct. Who did he relegate?
Close.
Oh, okay.
But elsewhere, who scored the winning penalty at Bramall Lane to keep his side up at the expense of the Blades? On the final day in 2007, Carlos Tevez scored at Old Trafford to keep West Ham up. But elsewhere, who scored the winning penalty at Bramall Lane to keep his side up at the expense of the Blades?
I don't know.
Yeah, see, everyone remembers West Ham and Sheffield United from that relegation fight.
Yeah, I remember Tevez scoring because obviously you shouldn't have.
If you don't know the third wheel, you're in real trouble because then you're really struggling for the goal scorer.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Question 15. Who are the only team to score more than 5 in a final day game away from home? Question 15. Who are the only team to score more than 5 in a final day game away from home?
Okay.
Question 16. Whose 87th minute goal for Wolves in 2011 meant they were out of the relegation zone by a solitary goal despite still losing 3-2 to Blackburn? Whose 87th minute goal for Wolves in 2011 meant they were out of the relegation zone by a solitary goal despite still losing 3-2 to Blackburn?
Ask me to name a Wolves player from 2011. Any Wolves player from 2011.
You're in trouble, are you?
I don't know any Wolves players in 2011. I'm thinking about it.
Oh, sorry, mate. Thought you'd done your research.
Yeah, I didn't have enough time to do that much research.
Okay, well, question 17's got some from a team that you'll know better. Who scored Manchester City's goals when they clinched the title with a 2-0 win against West Ham in 2014? 1 point for each, please. Who scored Manchester City's goals when they clinched the title with a 2-0 win against West Ham in 2014? 1 point for each. Question 18. Bolton beat Middlesbrough 2-1 to fend off the valiant threat of the best team to ever get relegated, West Ham United, on the final day in 2003. How many points did Bolton finish on?
How did they beat Aspire? That's the question.
Bolton beat Middlesbrough 2-1 to fend off the valiant threat of the best team to ever get relegated, West Ham United, on the final day in 2003. How many points did Bolton finish on? Now, if you listen to us all the time, you know how many points West Ham got.
Certainly do. Certainly do. Okay, give me the next one.
Question
and
19.
I need to repeat here, James.
Question 19. I will repeat all the questions, obviously. Which side came back from 2-0 down on a final day against Liverpool and then wasted time thinking they were safe when they still needed to score again to avoid relegation? Which side came back from 2-0 down on a final day against Liverpool and then wasted time thinking they were safe when they still needed to score again to avoid relegation?
I've got an answer. I can't remember, to be honest with you, James. I remember it happening, but I don't remember who did it.
Question 20.
Yep.
4 possible answers.
Yep.
Can you name the 4 Manchester United players who started their final day victory against Tottenham in 1999 that did not start the Champions League final 10 days later? Can you name the 4 Manchester United players who started the final day victory against Tottenham in 1999 that did not start the Champions League final 10 days later?
Got 2.
Shall I go through all the questions again?
Okay. Yeah, go through them all. Can you just... okay, so question number 3. 7.
Is this, are you asking me just to crack on? Or are you talking to
crack
yourself?
on, crack on,
Okay.
crack on.
Question 1. Which 2 sides played their final home game at their old stadium against Arsenal? Their last home game ever at that stadium before moving into a new stadium. Question 2. Who was sent off in QPR's 3-2 defeat at Man City in 2012? Question 3. Who did Liverpool beat on the final day of 2001 to secure Champions League qualification? In 2003, name the 2 players who scored in Chelsea's 2-1 victory over Liverpool in a Champions League shootout. 1 point for each of Chelsea's goal scorers. Question 5. In what year was the highest scoring final day game? Question 6. In 1998, Everton drew 1-1 with Coventry to climb from 18th to 17th. Who dropped into the relegation zone and went down instead? Question 7, with Man City needing to beat opponents Middlesbrough at the Etihad Stadium to leapfrog them and claim the final UEFA Cup spot, who did Stuart Pearce bring on to replace Claudio Reyna with only 2 minutes remaining in 2005? And for an additional point, who had an injury time penalty saved in that game? Question 8, who was in charge of Newcastle when they stayed up on the final day in 2015? Question 9, which former Arsenal player scored the opening goal against the Gunners in the final game of Arsenal's invincible season? Question 10, Didier Drogba and Nicolas Anelka scored 5 of Chelsea's goals in their 8-0 win against Wigan in 2010 on their way to the title. Who scored their 3 other goals? 1 point for each correct answer. There are 3 correct answers to be had in that question. Question 11, Gabriel Jesus scored an injury time goal at St Mary's 2 years ago to get Man City to 100 points. Who got the assist? Question 12, whose final day goal for Bradford against Liverpool in 2000 saved them from relegation? Question 13, in 2008, which 2 sides were relegated despite winning 4-1 and 4-0 respectively on the final day because Fulham won at Portsmouth? Question 14, on the final day in 2007, Carlos Tevez scored at Old Trafford to keep West Ham up. But elsewhere, who scored the winning penalty at Bramall Lane to keep his side up at the expense of the Blades? Question 15, who are the only team to score more than 5 in a final day game away from home? So the only team to score more than 5 away from home on the final day. Question 16, whose 87th minute goal for Wolves in 2011 meant they were out of the relegation zone by a solitary goal, despite still losing 3-2 to Blackburn? Question 17, 1 point for each. Who scored Manchester City's goals when they beat West Ham 2-0 to clinch the title on the final day in 2014? Question 18. Bolton beat Middlesbrough 2-1 to fend off the valiant threat of the best team to ever get relegated, West Ham United, on the final day in 2003. How many points did Bolton finish on? Question 19. Which side came back from 2-0 down on a final day against Liverpool and then wasted time with the score 2-2, thinking they were safe when they still needed to score again to avoid relegation? And question 20. Can you name the 4 Manchester United players who started their final day victory against Tottenham in 1999 that did not start the Champions League final 10 days later? How you getting on, Serge?
My original estimate of 5. It's going to be somewhere between 4 and 10, I reckon, Jay. Somewhere between 4 and 10.
All right.
I reckon 3 or 4.
This is quite tough. But I also think if there are people out there who've watched Premier League years and that, I mean, getting a lot is very conceivable here. Very, very conceivable.
I might start doing that, watching Premier League years in the background, or just downloading the audio from YouTube and just leaving it running in my headphones while I sleep through the night, just to increase my general knowledge and hope it sinks in.
Premier League years will always put you on the right path to some of these quizzes, definitely.
So now we know where you go for your knowledge.
What you think I watched? How many seasons have there been? You think I watched 24 hours of footage last night once I decided to do this topic? Don't be silly. I just looked through final day results and stuff that I remembered myself.
And the other one that helps a little here is Champman FPL. From the point of view of knowing who was playing for which clubs in which seasons, just around the one before and the one after.
Those who've been playing the game, they will remember certain players who perhaps they didn't around about that era. Yes.
Correct. Shall we go through the answers, James, for our loyal listeners?
Question 1, Suj, had 2 possible answers. Which 2 teams played their final ever home games in their old stadiums against Arsenal?
I've just got Middlesbrough and Sunderland.
0 points.
Oh, well.
Correct answers are Derby County, who lost 3-1 at home to Arsenal at the baseball ground in 1997 before moving to Pride Park. And more famously, because again, this is one I've mentioned a few times on my Champ Man streams, Southampton beat Arsenal 3-2 in the final game at the Dell in 2001 before moving to St Mary's, and where Matt Letizia, more famously, obviously scored the final goal as well. So it was a nice, well-written final ending for the Saints. Question 2, I think you know this one, Serge. Who was sent off in QPR's 3-2 defeat at City in 2012?
I mean, based on his previous track record, it was quite a surprising red card, to be honest. Joseph Barton?
Joseph Barton. Yes, Joey Barton is the correct answer. Received an 8-game ban following this red card because basically he got sent off sent off for swiping out at Tevez after an A-clash, which the linesman on the far side saw.
Elbowed him.
Then after he was sent off, he digged the knee into Aguero's back.
Yeah.
Then tried to cause a riot on the pitch. Absolutely lost his head.
And who finally led him off down the tunnel with his arm around his shoulder in a high-vis jacket?
It was
Mario Balotelli.
No, not true.
Balotelli got him off the pitch.
It was Micah Richards because Balotelli got off the bench to try and go for him as well.
Oh, did he? I thought, because the commentary was saying Balotelli's getting involved now as well. And then all I saw was someone taking him off, and obviously being racist.
It was Micah Richards who walked him off.
Right.
But Balotelli was getting up and giving him jip as well. It's quite a forgotten moment from that whole Aguero game, which had that incident not happened, I think it would have been remembered a lot more.
Do you know the great thing from that game? Because when I watched the highlights of that's one I always wanted to go to. Sir Alex Ferguson's press conference at the end, where he was like, where he said, he goes, you know what? Credit to them, they won the title. They had to play against 10 men for 20 minutes, and they were given 5 additional extra time minutes to help them, but they still did it. I was just like, you are a man who likes to stick it in, didn't you?
Congratulations. But by the way,
Yeah, you had to play against 10 men and you had 5 additional minutes because United have never had any extra time, have they?
no.
Of course.
No one remembers like the 9 minutes that suddenly appeared against Sheffield
No.
Wednesday in 1993. What people might not know about that game in 93, interestingly, is the referee got injured and it was a replacement referee. And I just think he forgot to start his timer, mate.
Oh, fair play.
Question
Cute.
3 was who did Liverpool beat on the final day of 2001 to secure Champions League qualification?
I went with Palace.
It's a London club. It's Charlton Athletic. Liverpool obviously famously won all the cups they entered that year, basically League Cup, FA Cup, UEFA Cup, and also clinched Champions League spot ahead of Leeds, winning 4-0 at the Valley on the final day. All the goals in the second half. Question 4. In 2003, which 2 players scored for Chelsea in their 2-1 victory against Liverpool to secure a Champions League place?
I've got Robin and Johnson, but I'm not confident now.
Correct answers are Marcel Desailly, who'd equalised Sami Hippier's opener. And the other correct answer is Jesper Gronkiar, who managed to find the far bottom corner while slipping from the edge of the box right on half-time at the Matthew Harding end. So Desailly and Gronkiar are the 2 correct answers.
Mm-hmm.
Question 5. In what year was the highest scoring final day game?
I read about a game. So you said what year was it in?
That's correct.
I read about a game between Middlesbrough and Man City that was 8-1 to Middlesbrough.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the right game?
No.
Okay, so then it's the wrong year. Anyway, I went 97-98 because I think that was the year Middlesbrough beat City 8-1, no?
No, that was, oh my goodness, it's 2008, I think.
So I might have seen 2007-8 and 98-7-98. Got them confused.
The correct answer is 2013, where West Bromwich Albion drew 5-5 with Manchester United in Sir Alex Ferguson's last ever game. Lukaku scored a hat-trick for West Brom. I'm sure United were winning 5-2 with about 10 minutes to go. Question 6. In 1998, Everton drew 1-1 with Coventry to climb out the relegation zone on the final day. They shit themselves because Dion Dublin equalised in the 89th minute. Who went down instead?
Fulham?
It was Bolton Wanderers, who lost 2-0 at Chelsea. Chelsea's second came from a counter-attack in injury time, which was scored by Jody Morris, and the Chelsea fans were booing Chelsea as they attacked, basically. Not that there was any particular hate between Chelsea and Everton, but it was more like, oh yeah, get rid of the other big club. Question 7. I think there's going to be a lot of wrong answers on this one because it's a clever question. Who did Man City bring on for Claudio Reyna with 2 minutes to go in their encounter with Middlesbrough, and who missed a penalty in the same game?
I haven't got an answer, James.
The answer that I think a lot of people will have put is David James. The correct answer is Nicky Weaver. Nicky Weaver, who famously saved the penalties for City in their playoff final against Gillingham in 1999, came on to replace midfielder Claudio Reyna and went in goal. And David James put on an outfield shirt and went up front. And who missed the penalty?
Don't know.
Mark Schwarzer saved a 92nd minute penalty from Robbie Fowler. And that draw meant that Middlesbrough finished 7th and qualified for the UEFA Cup in place of Manchester City. And obviously Middlesbrough would go on to reach that UEFA Cup final the following season.
Okay.
Question 8. Who was in charge of Newcastle when they stayed up on the final day in 2015?
Samuel Allardyce.
No, Samuel Allardyce was taking charge of his final match for the opposition. West Ham United appear a lot during these questions. The correct answer is...
crap, mate.
You were involved in a few of the title races. If I'd have gone back to 95, think of that United game as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
The correct answer is John Carver. Hapless John Carver was in charge for Newcastle for the final few months, and they went on an abysmal run. Goals from Musa Sissoko and Jonas Gutierrez kept Newcastle up at the expense of Hull. Question 9. Which former Arsenal player scored the opening goal against the Gunners in the final game of Arsenal's Invincible season?
Oh, Invincible season. Who do they play?
Leicester City.
Trying to think who would have
We
left.
can hear your bird sweeping, mate.
No idea, mate. No idea.
The correct answer is Paul Dickoff. Put Leicester in front of a fairly shocked North Bank because Leicester were already relegated as well. Obviously, Arsenal did go on to win that game 2-1. Paul Dickoff is the correct answer. Question 10. Which 3 players other than Drogba and Anelka scored for Chelsea in the 8-0 win against Wigan in 2010, Serge?
Lampard.
Correct.
I mean, he's basically a go-to answer for anything to do with Chelsea goals for the last 20 years. Ballack?
No.
Okay. I haven't got a third.
Correct answers are Frank Lampard.
Joe Cole.
No.
Okay.
Frank Lampard, Solomon Kalou, and Ashley Cole.
I was going to have a stab at a defender like Ashley Cole and then didn't bother. Oh, well.
Lampard, Kalou, and Ashley Cole are your correct answers. Question 11. Who assisted Gabriel Jesus' goal that got Manchester City to 100 points at St Mary's 2 years ago?
I would put down Leroy Sané because I feel like he's not been in a quiz for a while. So,
when in doubt, keep it simple, Serge. Correct answer is Kevin
Raheem
De Bruyne.
Sterling, KDB.
Kevin De Bruyne is the correct answer. Question 12. Whose final day goal for Bradford against Liverpool in 2000 saved them from relegation?
Is it the current Chelsea legend Benito Carbono?
It is not.
No.
No.
Never mind.
No. The correct answer is someone else who's very recently left Bradford City in that simulation. It is David Weatherall.
Yes.
David Weatherall, formerly of Leeds United, scored a very nice header late in the first half against Liverpool. I think it was late in the first half from memory.
Mm-hmm.
Question 13. In 2008, which 2 sides were relegated despite winning 4-1 and 4-0 respectively on the final day because Fulham won at Portsmouth?
Birmingham.
Correct.
And I'm pretty sure it was Reading.
And correct. Well done. 2 points.
The pace to read.
Birmingham City beat Blackburn Rovers 4-1 and Reading won 4-0 at Derby County. But Danny Murphy's late header for Fulham at Portsmouth meant that those 2 still went down. Question 14. Who scored the winning penalty at Bramall Lane to keep his side up in 2007?
I've got Leighton Baines down, but no.
Oh, you ain't a million miles away, mate, because
is it Unsworth?
It is David Unsworth.
I felt like it's Everton, and then I was just thinking, Baines, free kick penalty specialist. Never mind. I wrote down Baines, so I have to give myself 0.
I'm not sure if Leighton Baines was part of that Wigan team who had already moved to Everton. I think it might have still been there.
Yeah.
But David Unsworth scored. Wigan won 2-1 at Sheffield United. And all anybody remembers is that Sheffield United went down because West Ham illegally bought Tevez and Mascherano.
Yeah.
You don't remember that.
It was in their own hands.
Yeah.
It was in their own hands.
I think a point would have kept them up. I'm sure Wigan had to win. Once you were winning, Wigan had to win.
Yeah.
Question 15. Who are the only team to score more than 5 in a final day game away from home in the Premier League? Obviously, in 38 game seasons since 1996, just to clarify. I mean, come on. We knew this from the start.
We've got a 5-5 draw between West Brom and Manchester United.
Is that more than 5?
Oh, more than 5.
Yeah, the only team scored more than 5
Ah.
away from home on a final day.
Well, my original answer was Palace because I was thinking about that 5-4 game, but I didn't know if they were away from home or home.
Palace don't score 5 goals in a season, do they?
Yeah, no, I don't know, mate.
Correct answer is Tottenham Hotspur.
You had to get them in, didn't you?
I was there, mate. Brilliant 7-1 win at Hull City in 2017 when Kane clinched the Golden Boot, the famous game week 37 and 38 performances of Harry Kane that season.
FPL managers will remember that for sure.
I will, I should imagine. Question 16. Who scored Wolves' 87th minute goal that kept them up by a solitary goal at the time, despite still losing 3-2 to Blackburn Rovers?
No idea.
Correct answer is Stephen Hunt scored that goal. Long story short, because we could do a podcast on it, the Wolves fans had clocked once Hugo Rodallega, who was the answer to another question very recently, had put Wigan in front at Stoke and with Birmingham drawing 1-1 at Spurs, that in spite of losing 3-1 to Blackburn, 1 goal at that stage would keep them up. Stephen Hunt got it with 3 minutes to go. Birmingham obviously then went into all-out attack mode at Spurs and Pavlyuchenko got a second and they lost 2-1. And obviously Wolves eventually then finished surviving by a point. But it would have been on goals scored that they would have stayed up at that point of the season.
Wow.
Question 17, 2 points available here. Which 2 players scored for Man City in their 2-0 win over West Ham on a final day in 2014 that clinched their second Premier League title?
David Silva?
Incorrect.
Raheem?
Incorrect. Correct answers are Samir Nasri and you know he loves an important goal at the end of a season, right? It's Vincent Kompany.
Yeah.
Samir Nasri and Vincent Kompany are the correct answers. Question 18. When Bolton stayed up in 2003 after beating Middlesbrough 2-1, how many points did they finish on?
We had 42, so it's going to be 43, 44, 45. And I went in the middle, 44.
44 is the correct answer. Yep.
Nice.
Bolton and West Ham went into the final day both on 41 points. Remarkably, were not safe. Bolton had the edge on goal difference going into that final day. West Ham drew 2-2 at Birmingham, but even winning wouldn't have been enough because Bolton won again. So, yes, you could have gone down on 44. Question 19. Which side came back from 2-0 down on a final day against Liverpool and then wasted time at 2-2, thinking they were safe when they still needed to score again to avoid relegation?
Sunderland?
Incorrect. How times have changed for the mighty Manchester City, who at Main Road on the final day in 1996 heard a rumour that Wimbledon had scored at Southampton, which then would have meant that a draw was enough.
Yeah.
They then decided to keep the ball in the corner flag. The news was false. Wimbledon hadn't scored at St Mary's. Manchester City still needed to win. They went down.
Mental.
Yeah, you can't believe that, can you?
Nah.
Question 20. Can you name the 4 Manchester United players who started the final day victory against Tottenham in 1999 that did not start the Champions League final 10 days later?
I'll give it a bash.
Go.
Being that Solskjaer came off the bench in the final, I'm going to go with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is likely to have played the final game of the season.
Incorrect.
What? That surprises me. Steady Teddy?
Teddy Sheringham is correct. Teddy Sheringham was replaced at half-time.
Henning Berg.
Incorrect.
Oh, man. And then I've just got May down because I was thinking of a defender that might have was a bit part second string defender.
David May is correct.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, when you said Henning Berg, I was like, you've done the same thing I did with Son Campbell on Saturday, mate. I've gone the wrong one.
I was just thinking, literally, my answers for this, plus Benito Carbone and probably one other, have come from Champman FPL. Otherwise, I'd have been dead in the water. I don't remember United's 99, 2000, 2001 squad. All I know is
So
because we did the pod on the 98, 99, I know who they bought. So anyway, 2 is all right. That'll do.
David May did start. Yapstam didn't. I think Yapstam had an injury. He was obviously back in time for the Champions League final.
Yeah.
Teddy Sheringham started and was replaced by Andy Cole at halftime. Obviously, Cole scored about 5 minutes into the second half to clinch the title in that game. And obviously, Roy Keane and Paul Scholes were suspended for that Champions League final. So correct answers are David May, Roy Keane, Paul Scholes, and Teddy Sheringham.
Ah.
That's
7 out of 30. I'll take my 7 and run to the bank. I know you set this up as a little bit of a trickier quiz. I actually think we'll see a lot of 18s, 19s, 20 plus scores, James. I don't think it was too bad.
People who know their Premier League years will piss all over that. There'll be some feedback that was probably the easiest one you did, and there'll be others. I
didn't feel it was like crazy hard.
There'll be others who are younger are probably thinking, what? Don't know half of these names. Probably never heard of like David Weatherall, for example, and stuff like that. So, bit of a balance. Difficult to make everyone happy on that one, but I think it was fun.
Yeah, fun indeed, James. Why don't you tell everybody what we've got left lined up this week?
Well, we haven't decided what we're doing tomorrow.
Throwback Thursday.
I tell you what I was thinking of doing, and I know it maintains a Manchester United theme from last week, but I thought it might be interesting to look at when they missed playing in the FA Cup the following season to go and play in the World Club Championship in Brazil, because there's some final behind-the-scenes stuff there in terms of pressure from the FA and Manchester United pulling out the FA Cup essentially to part help England's bid for the 2006 World Cup, which didn't win, and United didn't do a lot of promotion because didn't really want to be out there and had the hump about it. And it went abysmally for them. So we celebrated.
Was that? Remind me.
Well, it was right at the start of 2000. It went abysmally for them out there. But when they came back, the Premier League title race looked very, very different, and that's part of the story as well.
Yeah, sure. Sounds like a good one. We got Champ streams.
Yeah, tonight and Saturday. FBL Captains promised me new graphics tonight. New.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is yet, but said I've got something new for you. I'm like,
fireworks, girls in bikinis on screen, everything. Cheerleaders.
It won't be none of that.
Okay.
And obviously I'll stream Friday afternoon as well. Just a note on Champ Man, in case you kind of missed the news over the weekend, that we've had a lot of feedback. People wish they'd played, etc. So basically, tonight's stream is Gameweek 17. The guys have set up a new website, www.champman. Is it chat? Oh, fuck.
What's the website? FantasyChampman.com.
Thank you. FantasyChampman.com, where you can now register a team. The guys are going to set up a second half league, which begins in Gameweek 20, which is basically June the 6th. You have 3 weeks to basically play around with it, free hit, whatever you like. You can use a different team every week. There's no restrictions, just for you to get used to the game until that Gameweek 20 starts. And obviously for all current players, it's a small process now from, still use the sheets, but from Gameweek 20, we will all be using that website.
If I was an existing player like I am, how do I go about setting up my team in there? If I just use the email address that I provided at the beginning for my Google Sheet,
you just register again, then you'll get a verification email. So you just verify it, and then you just set up your team.
I'm trying to remember which email address I used to set up my team at the beginning.
I don't think it'll even matter, to be honest. Listen, the guys will know who you are, right? This isn't official FPL where they're going to stitch you up. This is, the guys are on it. They'll basic mistakes like that, they're going to realise what's happened and that. And obviously, it's kind of for current players, it's basically a do what you want with it for a couple of weeks, and highest score, whether you use a triple captain or bench boost, highest score gets you into our friends at the Wolfpack and their FA Cup competition that they'll be doing. So yeah, a bit of fun outside the game for the next couple of weeks. It's a really good initiative to get new players involved. Basically, they couldn't get any more people on the sheets. Is the long
it makes sense.
Long and short of it. So they've set up a website. It's really slick and good. So I hope those who thought, I wish I'd joined, do it.
Get involved, because we need more people on the live streams and everything that we're doing as well. So, guys, thank you for tuning into the quiz. If you enjoyed it, then do make sure you hit like and share and subscribe and all of that kind of stuff. If you want a single place to get all your Planet FPL content, I was going to say Fantasy Premier League content, but Planet FPL content, then we have an app on both Android and on iOS. You can just go to the Play Store or App Store, search Planet FPL, you'll be able to download the app, and all of our content will come in one place. As well as that, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and particularly on Twitter. You can find James at Planet FPL Pod. You can find myself at Susan Shah. And last but not least, if you think you love the content, the 5 free shows that we do a week, and you want to join our Patreon, that's at patreon.com/Planet FPL. For the time being, all monies that come through Patreon are being donated to NHS charities together. If you don't know about the live stream that we did on the weekend, where have you been? But do look back through James's timeline at Planet FPL Pod, and it will soon become clear. But that's all you need to know about where you can find us, how you can support us. Most importantly for now, stay safe. Ciao for now.
Be nice to each other, everybody. Cue music, man, child.